From Rule 62 Studios in Bossier City, Louisiana, this is The Grouch and the Brainstorm. Welcome back, Cotter.
I was waiting on that, man.
Yeah,
We're going way back.
Dreams are your ticket out. Episode, I think this is episode 83, Matt.
83.
I think episode 82. Oh, by the way, the episode with Karen.
Yes.
Karen, is that how you say it?
Yeah,
'Cause
Karen.
It's not how you spell it. Okay. It comes out tomorrow, which by the time you hear this, already. But what a great episode, man! So I had to listen to it for editing purposes, and man, she did a fabulous job.
Yes, she did.
Just listening to her story was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Well, Karen is amazing.
yeah.
I'm super proud of her.
So I'm Mike. I'm here with Matt
What's happening?
and Jill.
Hey.
The regular crew for the regular crew
Okay.
for the Grouch and the Brainstorm are in full effect today.
Yeah.
Jill, what you been up to?
Been doing a bit of work. Not as much on the farm. Still working on my injury, and I mean that's just work.
Well, me and Matt saw earlier that your chickens and your pigs are both running free range now.
Bro, if I pass one of those pigs at the light in Bossier or something, like if you send it to the store or whatever, they're like humans. Like they just walk around. It's like, what's up?
Yeah.
Well, your pigs are males and your chickens are females.
That's correct.
Me and Matt are wondering how long it's going to be before there's a
No.
turducken wandering around
Turducken meat.
wandering around
No.
around the Ponderosa.
This is Louisiana. They call that a junk pot, man. You just dump all the meat you have in there. It doesn't matter, and cook it up. So
There you go.
kind of what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it won't happen. Chunk and Bud, had a visit to the doctor.
Oh, that's right. Never
Yeah.
mind. There goes,
Yeah.
there goes our plans for next year's Christmas dinner.
They're eunuchs or whatever. Is that the deal?
I don't know
That's
how.
what they call them in the Bible.
Yeah. It was just such a beautiful day.
Matt's a theological expert over here. I've been to
something.
church a lot, and I've never heard the term eunuch.
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 I got a buddy. That's our joke. But anyway, that's an old one. But
So is that someone that's been castrated?
yes.
Okay, so anyway, it's a beautiful day in Bossier City.
It is a
It's
beautiful
day.
80s, it's sunny, it's breezy, and I decided to let all the girls and the boys out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've been running around playing in the mud.
My grandson is amazed at all that. He, there's kids out there right now as we're talking, playing, and those pigs and chickens are just like people, man. They're just hanging out.
That's pretty cool, too.
Yeah.
That they can become domesticated like that right before they end up in the grocery store.
Chris C's out there. We got him domesticated too. I mean, that's been its own miracle, So,
Matt, what you been up to, man?
man, just rocking 100 miles an hour. Before we start, I did get a message from some folks the other day listening to our podcast called 633 Recovery in Oklahoma. I haven't even told Jill and Mike this part yet. I told them a little bit of it, but I'm going to read this and then see if Mike can put these pictures up. But they listened to episode 81 the other day, and the guy said, been clean and sober 16 years, just now reading the big book, got a sponsor, really working the steps. It's pretty cool. I've been around the steps all these years and used them, but never really worked them with a sponsor. Kind of funny working the steps with one of my guys who graduated our program. It's pretty cool. You guys keep rocking recovery. And then he said, you guys want to see some actual snakes from down here in southeastern Oklahoma. And those are the pictures he sent me of rattlesnakes. Evidently, they catch them for fun.
Yeah.
And I said I would
Church
send Jill
purposes.
right up to help them out with that. I'm going to stay here in Louisiana.
Well, I think they practice catch and release up there.
Yes, they do. He said they didn't harm them. He said we just go catch them and release them. And I said, I'm never going in the state of Oklahoma again. I didn't even know they had snakes that big. No, I didn't say that. But
I
yeah,
guess I don't know if I personally have ever seen a rattlesnake
I have.
out in the wild. I haven't.
I ran one over when we had that tornado. I ran one over crossing the road. Didn't even realize it was a snake till I ran it over. I thought it was a limb in the road, and it was a rattlesnake.
How'd you realize it was a snake then? You
Because he moved right as I got up to him, and I went, "Oh, that's a gigantic snake."
thought his fang stuck in the tire.
No.
Flopping around on the
I had
side.
I had
pull him off.
truck and a trailer, and I got him with every tire on it
Well,
on the left side. So
Yeah, the poor guy.
he's no longer with
No
us.
catch and release there, huh?
No,
Your Oklahoma buddy may not listen to us.
yeah,
after
I got
hearing
a
that
picture of a
story.
rattlesnake
Yeah,
too.
there's no
but he-
release here.
Yeah. Well, here, of course, you got to just keep the animal safe. So there is I guess there would be another extraction process that would be a little more tedious and more expensive, but we there's a lot of land here as well, and a lot of places for them to go.
And I think farm type applications, you can do a few things that you can't do the public just walking out and I'm going to go, shoot a bunch of snakes today. You can't do that.
Right.
It has to be it's like shooting coyotes and people shooting hogs that have, crops,
I seen a
corn.
coyote the other day, man.
Did you?
Yeah, I don't couple in my life out in the wild.
I've seen. Yeah, I mean they're always out here,
I can imagine out in a place like this or
And they get-
somewhere like in
really close.
Colorado where you lived. I bet there was a lot.
No, they're here. More so in Colorado.
I was on a lake actually. We were fishing, and the land came to a point, and that's where you fish. And a coyote wandered up there.
Cool.
Well, he was chasing a roadrunner that had just ran into the water. So,
Oh.
I knew it was a coyote because he had the Acme hat on. No, I really did see a coyote.
Yeah, we out there where we just moved, we've been seeing foxes out there. It's kind of
Oh
cool.
my god!
Yeah, they're pretty.
I want a fox.
There's some out there. So, and then some of these city kids I got hanging out with me, we came home the other night and there was a raccoon with a couple baby raccoons walking down the street in front of my truck with the lights on. So we just followed it down the street and one of the kids goes, "What is that, a cat?" I'm like, no, not really. But
Well, one of my cousins came in one time from Alaska, and they'd been in Alaska their whole life. And I'm gonna guess he was 6 or 7, but he had never seen a raccoon. There was a dead one on the side of the road, and he had me pull over so he could look at it. And I pulled over. And
you ever see like armadillos would lay back and their hands when they're dead and their hands would clutch like that
like
in
a
a
football,
circle?
like they're
Yeah.
about to hold a foot. Yep.
Yeah, and so back in the drinking days, we'd be riding the roads and see one, and we'd stop and stick like a Budweiser bottle in their hand. So people
God.
driving by,
Put a get well soon balloon in there on the side of yeah.
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 Anyway,
Yeah.
how'd we get on animals?
I don't know. I guess
Chunk and
we'll
Bud
start
and the
talking about
girls.
Chunk and Bud.
Yeah.
So all I've been doing is working, getting ready for. I have an inventory coming up, and then shortly after that, I'll be making a trick. I'm not making a trick.
Well, I
I'm
was
making
like,
a trek
damn,
up to Alaska.
Come on.
So
Mike, that's so cool.
go up there, and I think me and my son are gonna fly into Portland. We're gonna drive to Seattle at least, Mount Rainier, go around in that little area, and then probably fly up to Anchorage or Juneau, and then fly back, depending on the amount of time we have.
What are y'all gonna do? Just sightsee?
Yeah, we're just going. Well, yeah. No, we're gonna wrestle bear.
I mean, I was in. If y'all said that, that's my first thought was.
We're gonna wrestle bear, and we get some moose tracks.
We were walking the other day somewhere, and Lacey said, "What are you thinking about? Why's your face like that?" And I was like, "We're in like a Walmart, and I was like, I'm just hoping that like just a grizzly bear will run out of one of the aisles, and we get to have that moment in life where it's like I just walk around waiting on stuff like that, and that's what was on my mind. It wasn't anything.
Man,
I guess you thought it was serious. you know?
Yeah. Some people, I had a guy the other day, and I'm gonna get to a topic, I promise. But I had a guy the other day, and I don't know what I was thinking about, but obviously my face showed something. And he was a truck driver, and the bell kept ringing, and finally, so I was like, you know what, I'll go get it, So I went to the back door, and I put my key in the lock, and I slung it up. And the guy's like, "Well, what's wrong with you? You look like you ain't happy to be here." And in a split second, I looked at him and I said, "You know what? I woke up this morning. I'm not in jail, and I'm not in a hospital. I'm happy to be anywhere that I'm at."
Sure.
He said, "Your face don't match your attitude." He said, "You have a really good attitude. You
I
need
like
to
that.
keep
Your
that.
face on my head.
Oh,
You need to keep that attitude."
what's your face?
And I
Lose the face.
I don't remember what I was thinking about. I mean,
Scowling?
obviously there's something. I would probably had to get up off of a conference call, my 5th of the day or something, and go get on this.
But I do that. You get stuff on your mind, and you're just thinking in your head about other things. You don't
Yeah.
realize how your
I have,
expression.
I have the resting face from what I've heard.
Well, people, and then people think they know what you're thinking, but you're actually thinking, like, what kind of paint did they use on go-karts when I was a kid?
Yeah.
You know, in your head,
Lead-based.
it's going back and forth in your head, and you're trying to think.
There's a deal on social media, and it's a man and woman, and she's laying in the bed, and she's thinking, I wonder if he's thinking about what he's thinking about right now. And the guy's laying over there, and he's like, I wonder if I could fight 2 grizzly bears. That's how I am. I'm like, I'm not. It's not that serious, you know.
That's okay. I mean, like, I'm the same way.
My favorite one's that there's a TikTok, and this lady, she tells her husband or boyfriend, whatever the hell he is, she says, if you can make me upset with one word, I'll do anything you want me to do. And he goes, what? And she goes, I said. And he keeps saying,
Yep,
what?
there you go.
One word right there. And the same would be true with why. I had a buddy that used to always say why. It pissed me off. And I had a sponsor that used to always say why. You know, you tell him why. Well, again, you try. He was actually trying to get it down to the
He was trying to get you to
level.
a place. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, we have today, Jill had a little get together out here at the farm.
Yeah.
And a lot of our sober friends and their spouses and significant others and children, a lot of kids out here today, they showed up. But 2 of the people I saw whenever we got here, and unfortunately we couldn't get them up here, was Cal and Chris. And the reason I bring up Cal and Chris is because these 2 gentlemen are physically fit to a point where you can tell there is some form of commitment to their physical fitness, right? They obviously do something on a regular basis in order to have that look. Now, Chris is a professional body. I don't know about professional, but he's
some. Yeah, it's pretty
if
close.
he's not
if
professional, he's semi-pro.
Yeah, he's working to get his professional
So
card. I
he
think.
is
His pro card.
Yes,
He is about as much professional bodybuilder as I am not professional bodybuilder.
me too, brother.
Right. I'm working to get my non-pro card, which apparently is just as hard to get as
Actually, it's not. It's real easy. Look, blue belt, sit on the couch. You know, that's what I do.
don't take shots in the stomach.
That's right. That's right.
But no, so these guys, they have a commitment. And we talked last episode, or actually the episode before Karen's, we talked about, am I an alcoholic? And, you know, so let's just say, just hypothetically, someone listened to this podcast and they heard us talking about it and they were like, man, I really think I am. And they go to a meeting, right? And they meet somebody at the meeting and they come home and, you know, tell whoever's at home or tell themselves, I really like these people I met. I really want to go back. I think I'm going to get a sponsor. And they do that. And we talk about one day at a time. And I don't ever want to fray from the regular old AA program. But there are things about this that require, once you decide to get sober, they require a commitment. You have to have a commitment. So I'm 51. I'm about to be 52 here in, 4 months. And I can honestly say there are only a couple things I've ever been committed to, right? I mean, completely 100% committed to. And my recovery is probably the only one I've ever done for 13 years straight, right? And that is a commitment to going to meetings. That's a commitment to I still read my big book. I still pull it out. It's in the back of my car right now. I still pray every day, twice a day, sometimes 3 times, you know, if I just feel I have to. I still talk to my sponsor, not as much as I should. I called him last week and we just didn't talk about anything but just talk, you know.
Yeah.
And I still don't drink, right? So I do these few things every day. So it requires a certain amount of commitment on our part whenever we go into it. And so where I was going with that, though, is we get into AA and we have we're going to do this attitude, and we go out and we buy the books. We've talked about this before, you know, we get all the books and we listen to speaker tapes and we get all into it and life gets good. And then something happens to that commitment and we quit. Maybe after 5 years, we're like, hey, you know, I got so much going on in my life that I forget what got me here to this point in my life. And we can actually start making commitments to other stuff, right? We can commit ourselves to, I don't know, a sport, right? Here I am. I'm going to be a professional pickleball player, or we can academics, or a lot of people get into exercise, bodybuilding,
Their jobs.
running.
A lot of us don't. you know, in the body, any exercise.
But where I'm going is, if you look at these people that have 30 and 40 and 50 years, they still go to a lot of meetings.
Sure.
And they still are committed to working with sponsees, and they still have that commitment, right? And, you know, and I can honestly say, you know, every once in a while I question my commitment. Where has it gone? You know, because no matter where I live, there's a meeting right down the road. I live in Burleson, Texas, and 3 minutes down the road from my house is the Burleson group, right? And then there's another 40 minutes away from my house. I have the Keller Golden Triangle group, which is a good group. Meets at 7 o'clock at night, you know, so the sun's going down. But where were you, Matt, or when you first got into AA, how strong was your commitment?
Oh, it was a life or death, you know. And I didn't know a lot about the program itself. I really didn't know that much other than what I'd been told in treatment. And, you know, they just said, hey, here's a few things. Thank God for those techs and those people that work in those places in recovery, because you spend your off and down time with those guys. And we had a great group of techs at the place I was at on the men's side. And they were really good about, hey man, like, do this, do that. You need to start praying every day. You know, when you get out, you need to go to a meeting every day, all these things. And I went, well, they've been sober. I think one of them 18 months, one of them 10 years, various lengths of sobriety, but they all, I just cut to the chase of it. They all seemed like they had their shit together, you know? And I was like, whatever they're doing, they actually have a life. And I remember one of them, we were talking, and one of the guys said, he said, man, this is boring. It's so boring sitting here like this. Like, you know, and we had been in there a few months at that point. And the tech, his name was Andrew, he said, hey, I can show you not boring. You know, you can do not boring. He said, but I tell you what I did. I went to work today. I'm going to get a paycheck Friday. He said, I go home, I get in the swimming pool, and my wife's hot. And I get to swim around with the kids, and then I go in my little man cave, and I watch football at night, and then I go to bed with my wife. And I went, dang, that sounds pretty good, you know? That sounds like normal, you know? And so I took the suggestion to do what he was suggesting, and others, they were all suggesting the same thing. But I was on the verge of, it was death or that. I mean, I didn't have anywhere else to go, so I stuck with it through the uncomfortable. No, it didn't make any sense to me. If I go sit in a room every day and listen to a bunch of people, then I'm not going to drink or get high. That didn't make any sense to me at all. And I had no faith in it working, but I wanted to give it an honest shot at it. And I noticed as I went along, it was very uncomfortable to sit through that and the feelings and all those things. But I did the same things every day, and I was getting the results. And it took a little while as I got into the steps and I started working a few. It's almost like even doing 1, 2, and 3, you hear so much about the steps and you do them the first time and you're like, holy crap, I just did step 3, bro. Like I'm Bill W's cousin right now. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's a sense of accomplishment.
It is.
But it's almost like a little, okay, we're moving along with this thing. Let's see what happens. And that for me, it was kind of like, oh, okay, you know, so I'm on 4 and 5 and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it kind of kept my mind focused on moving positively forward and doing that same thing that I've been doing until I got to the point where I wasn't that uncomfortable with it anymore. And those weird feelings, I didn't have that as much anymore. And I mean, I think all of us in this room, we still do all those things. The meetings, all those things. I just went talking about buying books. I just went to the central office the other day and got some stuff, and just to get some new stuff to look at, you know. And I think you have to also refresh things. Like I see a lot of people, they'll come to our club for a while, and you may see them for a couple of years, and then they'll go to Shreveport to somewhere, and I think that's good. I think it's healthy to not get in a rut with your recovery and be around some new people. I love Instagram, man. People just reach out all over the world, and we're talking about recovery, and they're putting 30-day sober things up on the deal. And I'm like, that's awesome, you know, and that's such a great thing. And it fires me up too, because it just reminds me, hey, this is what we do every day, you know?
And one thing that has changed, and it's changed even since I've been sober. So, Jill, I know it's changed since you've been sober, and you may not have noticed, but recovery is now loud. It is no longer silence.
Yeah.
Sure.
People talk about their recovery. They talk about their struggles. They talk about, you know, I've seen some lady the other day had 26 years, and then sometimes you'd be strolling through and there's someone that has 26 days, you know, and some of them are clickbait. Unfortunately, they
absolutely.
won't. But you know, for the ones that are legit, you know, that's their recovery is a very loud thing now. And
Yeah.
I was watching, and I don't remember whose podcast it was. I may not even know whose podcast it is. But they have one of the video kind that, you know, I would love for us to do a video one, but that may be way in the future. But they have Steve-O.
Sure.
Yeah.
Used to be on Jackass.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's what, 16 years sober now. So
Yeah.
I think him and Eminem got sober about the same time. But he was on there and he was talking about his recovery. And he said, you know what? I protect my recovery no matter what.
Sure.
Period. And apparently someone had asked him to come be on their show. I don't know who, and I'm not even going to speculate. And apparently this particular host smokes pot the whole time.
I read about that.
And he said, I would come if they'll agree, you know, that while I'm there, they respect my recovery and not smoke pot while I'm there. And the host said, no, I'm not going to do that. And then, of course, Steve-O said, no, I'm not going to do that. Right. So, you know, he protected his recovery. And yeah, and you have to. But he was talking about it. And it's the same guy from Jackass. Sometimes, unfortunately, he did all that on screen. Right? We got to see this dude in action.
Yeah.
And now you see him, and he seems like a pretty good dude, you know, and he's talking about his recovery. And, you know, the thought of commitment is kind of scary, right, when you think about it. I do not like commitment. And personally, I'm just straight up tell you, I don't like commitment at all. I don't like, man, if somebody asks me to speak at something and it's 6 months off and I commit to it, my stomach's going to hurt for 6 months. Like, I just do not like any form of commitment. I don't like to let people down. I just don't like, so on this side of it, I can correct a problem, right? But that's not the commitment I'm talking about. The commitment I'm talking about is the commitment that I owe myself, right? I'm selfish, self-seeking, and self-centered. And the one way I can use that for me is when I get in AA and say, I'm not going to drink for me. I'm not going to do anything at all because I'm so selfish I don't want to die. Mm-hmm. Right? And at that point, nothing else matters. But a commitment to everyday regime, is that right? Regime? What is it? Regime.
Regiment?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Joe Dirt.
Yeah.
Dear Tay.
Dear Tay.
It's French. That mullet wasn't French, baby. It was straight America.
I was straight America, man. It's a little bit. Now he would be now that movie's not any good because mullets are popular and nobody even knows what's funny about it.
Man, I was at a dang junior high
Right.
football game today, and I've never seen so many mullets on kids in my whole life, man.
Not even since
They
the
were
80s?
fabulous. No, this was put the 80s to shame. And I didn't have a mullet, but we did have rat tails.
No, we had
So many rat tails.
Yeah, we had rat
that was a throwback right
You had
there.
to fight with your parents about having a rat tail.
Oh, bro.
I did anyway.
This is how much times have changed. I was telling somebody the other day, I remember getting busted, which I grew up my dad was a pastor. You know, we didn't listen to any secular music, growing up. And somebody gave me a tape of the Beach Boys. Yes. That was one of the first.
The Beach Boys had to be old when you were a kid. 'cause they were old when I was a kid.
But I thought, I'm listening to daggone Metallica right now. I mean, it might as well have been. And I remember getting busted with the Beach Boys tape, dude. And it was like the crime of the century. Yeah, the Beach Boys,
That
bro.
might as well be a
Yeah.
Christian band for
And then
me.
the first country song I ever remember hearing that was like was George Strait, All My Exes Live in Texas.
Yeah.
And I remember being like 6, and I was like, dude, how does he got this many ex-wives? Like, how did that happen? You know? Like, this dude has got a bunch of them. You know, like, what did he do here?
Well, enough to write a song about.
Yeah, I mean, evidently.
Talk about not liking commitment.
And he's got them spread all over
Right,
Texas.
like,
You
he's
know?
like the bad man.
I
Don't
didn't
listen
realize
to
I
that.
was listening to King George then. But,
Go
you know.
back a minute. You got in trouble for listening to the Beach Boys?
Bruh,
you sure
you
it
don't
wasn't the
even know.
Beastie Boys?
No, that came later.
This was California Girls, and
yeah. I mean, just
good
the
thing they
Beach
didn't
Boys,
catch
man.
you with the mamas and the papas. They
Man,
whooped your ass.
man, look, I remember.
Don't
yeah.
tell Roger. You know,
Yeah,
he's a big old music fan.
Is he?
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's a music fan. I don't know he's a mamas and papas.
no. I'm talking about Air Supply and yeah.
I knew about the Air Supply. I didn't want to put that out in public that Roger liked Air Supply.
Well,
But
I can edit that part out. I won't do it.
he has a Ricky Skaggs t-shirt that I hope he leaves me in his wheel when he passes away. That's the coolest shirt ever.
He has a Ricky Skaggs.
Ricky Skaggs t-shirt. I'm like, dude, I love that shirt.
Ricky
I don't even know
Skaggs
who
still
that
alive.
is. I mean,
He's
is he related to Boz?
bluegrass
no.
country music
No,
guy.
I think
Okay.
Boz Skaggs was British, wasn't he?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Ricky is not British. He's Tennessean. So
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Ricky Skaggs was more bluegrass than
Okay.
anything.
kind of a,
But-
yeah.
I mean, like, I like bluegrass.
But it's just a cool T-shirt. I
Yeah.
like the T-shirt. But anyway,
But so here's the deal: Ricky Skaggs, George Strait, even the Beach Boys, and the Beastie Boys, they all started out as regular bands, right?
sure.
Who committed to their main goal, and they did something constantly over and over again in order to become people we talk about all these years later, right?
Yep.
Now, the really good ones, we can't name the individuals, right? Because they were a team and they stuck together, you know. But the good ones, you know, we could probably name the individual names of the people in the band. You know, George Strait is not just George Strait. There's a whole group of people with him, right? Jason Aldean, same way. You know, he's newer to that group, but these people stay committed. And a lot of the years we see what we see on TV, that isn't their life, man. A lot of these years they were broke. They didn't have nothing. You know, I watched the show. That's where I'm getting this. I watched the show called Nothing But a Good Time on Paramount Plus, and it's about 3 episodes, and it talks about the music through the 80s of metal, you know, and at the end it talks about Kurt Cobain and what he did to metal at the end of it all. But some of these guys didn't even have food. They would go wherever they could get free food and scrounge it up, but they were committed to whatever they were doing. And believe it or not, a lot of these guys, you see them then and you see them now, and all they talk about is their recovery. How good recovery has been to them because they could commit to one thing and they saw success in it. They could commit to something else and see success in it. And, you know, and I bet if they could mix the two, man, I wish I had that life, but was sober. You know, I probably wouldn't have squandered away, you know, $100,000 a day on whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. What did the dude on Motley Crue said he smoked a Lamborghini every year or something like that? Like,
God bless.
yeah, I mean, ungodly amounts of money, you know?
yeah. So, and basically when I say a commitment, I mean, we tell you to do it one day at a time. That really is all you need to worry about. But for some of us, this is one day at a time for a lifetime, you know?
My counselor in rehab put it good. She said, when I did my release thing, she said, or my treatment plan, whatever they call it, release
Discharge
deal.
summary.
Discharge summary. Thank you, Jill. I was waiting on Jill to pipe in. I knew she knew the right. But she kind of talked to me and said, hey, you know, we're going to go to meetings. You're going to do this. You're going to go straight to a meeting place. You're going to get a sponsor. And she said, you're 90 days clean and sober right now. We want to get you to 6 months. And I said, well, I'm just trying to do today. You know, I'm Mr., you know, Bill Wilson Jr. at this point, 90 days in. And I said, I thought we were just living just for today, on one day at a time. And she said, we're going to live one day at a time, but there's nothing wrong with having goals for the future. And in order to achieve those, you need to take it one day at a time. And I like the way she put that, you know.
Well, and true that. I have to plan out my meetings. You know, I have to say, this is when I'm going to be able to go to a meeting and of course, not deter from that, you know, not because life's going to throw you curveballs and all these other stuff. But so, you know, I say, hey, this is where I'm going to go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to my meetings, you know, and sometimes that's hard to do. But if I lived one day at a time, I'd wake up every day, you know, and say, okay, I'm gonna try to get to the 5:30, but so I do have to do a little planning, absolutely. Not to mention the fact I live one day at a time and don't plan anything financial, and well, then one day I can't work, and I'm like, well, what am I doing today? What am I gonna do in a month when all this stuff's due, right? So you absolutely does have
but you gain that ability. I think early on, if you just go, hey, man, because it was for me, it wasn't no financial, well, it still ain't much financial planning on my end, but it's a lot better, the other things in my life now, because I can go, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and this is how we're going to get there. And then work that little bit, the little steps, that's what gets you.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt to say, hey, if I order 9 pizzas, the 10th one's free. So 10 days from now, this is what we're going to eat, right?
Sure.
I mean,
hey, that's meal prep, baby.
That's yeah, and the fellas down
pay
at
them up
Domino's
front. They just be waiting every day when you get home. I like that.
Yeah, what happened to the $5 Little Caesars?
It's I bought 4 of them.
Are they still $5?
3 nights ago. No, they're about $8.
Do they still
taste
have a
like they're about $3.
footlong?
They ought to cost about $3, huh?
Do they still have a $5 footlong at the
Subway?
Yeah.
No, that's probably a $12 footlong now. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
Or-
No,
I know.
I've never gotten a foot long.
man, I tell you what, I went in one of those the other night and
Sorry
watched
to
the
hear
guy
that.
walk in, shoot heroin, leave high in
Well-
the bathroom downtown in the city.
Yeah.
I was like, that's nice. That's
Well-
lovely.
Yeah. Like when you ask someone, how are you? And they say, hi.
He didn't have to say, I knew.
Now I know.
Yeah, he was in there a long time
So this was at a Subway?
in the city, right down the road. Yeah, Line Avenue.
I mean, so,
give
but
a-
you were at a Subway restaurant? When this-
Yes.
Oh, okay.
yes.
Okay.
I was getting a sandwich and
Well, have you noticed a lot of places that have sharps containers in the restroom now, so you don't just throw your needles in the. And mainly for me, it's been just on my travels, but I've noticed sharps containers in the.
Odd.
And in the restroom. So
All
that you
the Ozempic users.
I want that or diabetics or IV drug users.
yeah, yeah. That was a strange deal. But I mean, when the guy came in, he's like, I was the only guy in the restaurant. I was getting a sandwich. It was 8:00 at night, and the guy walked in, and you could tell he probably lived on the street, headed straight to the bathroom, and was in there for a while. And then he came out, and you could see on him. And the people in the restaurant evidently probably knew the guy because you could tell the way they were acting about it too. But yeah, very, very weird deal.
And they may have, they may be protective of him, believe it or not.
Maybe. I mean, they didn't give him a hard time, but you could tell they were watching what he was doing. And
Yeah, he
and
may
you
come
could
in
just
and
kinda
wash
tell.
up.
Yeah, and believe it or not, I have some of those people who come into my facility, and that's where they wash up, and they hey, as long as you leave it just like you found it, don't buy you good, So I don't think I've ever had a customer who I knowingly was taking IV drugs. I don't know that, but so this is a funny one that I just thought about when you were telling me that, but that in itself requires a bit of commitment.
Absolutely.
The alcoholism and the drug abuse require a little
Major
bit of
commitment.
so I could plan my drinking out for a long time, right?
Yeah.
I could try to figure out this is how much vodka I'm going to drink, and this is how much, how many cases I need, and this is the size I need, and all of those good things. So I could, I honestly tried as hard as I could to plan that out so that I wouldn't be in a position to where I would have to go driving and drinking,
Yeah.
Even though I'd black out and go driving anyway, I still don't know why, but so it requires, but just take this fella you're talking about. We don't know him, right? And we're not judging him.
No, not at all.
Not in the least, because addiction is just a shitty thing, okay?
Yeah.
But he may not have a home. He may not have a vehicle, but he has to have that drug.
Sure.
So at some point every day, he is committed to doing whatever it takes to getting that drug, whether it's picking up change, sitting in front of a store and collecting money from people, picking up cans and trading them in. Sometimes you get theft and burglary and all these other things, or even up to armed robbery, And I'm not defending any of that. I'm saying they're so committed to getting that drug. The drug is committed to getting that drug for that person is what it's doing. It's taken over at this point. But when we get into recovery, right? If we had that same commitment, no matter what I got to do, I'm going to get to a meeting. No matter what I got to do, I'm going to get a sponsee. No matter what I got to do, I'm going to tell my story. By the way, Roger is going to be telling his story at the Highland Club.
Okay, great.
He didn't give me a date.
Tuesday night deal.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday night deal. He did not give me a date. I told him, I'm going to do everything I can to get over there. But I don't know when. I don't know when.
It's his first time.
First time ever.
Aw, yeah, awesome.
That's awesome, man.
So,
I've actually had a lot of counselors, and I've heard them mention, if you put the same amount of energy that you put into your addiction into recovery, like just imagine where that would
results.
take you
Yeah.
and the results.
and wow, what can happen? I mean, there is a limit to the other way, right? Committing to drugs, your limit is you're going to be dead or in a hospital or in jail.
Yeah,
That's your limit. You got 3 choices.
And it's going to go down.
The other way, there's no limit.
it really isn't.
You may be this person that's walking the streets and shooting up in the bathroom at a Subway restaurant. And you find recovery. Man, you may be the CEO of a business somewhere. You may be the father of some children that grow up to be whatever it is they want. I mean, there's no limit, like in any direction any of that goes. Because at some point, you allow God to take over. You quit taking over because what you're doing is you're determining the destiny right there.
Yeah.
Right? This is it. This is all we have. And some of these drugs, I wonder, where did they even come from? I mean, how did they even get here to the point of where, and obviously they're, somebody manufactured it and tried it and it was really good and word of mouth got around and bam, everybody's like McDonald's, everybody's loving it or whatever it is. McLoving it. I don't know.
I'm just, I talked to somebody today. We were talking, and for some reason yesterday, I was doing some work. I was by myself all day, and I was thinking about how, like, I used to feel and act with a substance in my body, right? And I was just like, I can't imagine doing anything that I'm doing today if I was doing like that, Like, how the hell did I even function?
I died the same way.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I didn't, obviously, but like, I can't imagine keeping up with everything today that I have to keep up with and do and having that crap in my system. I just can't imagine. It was the weirdest thought. I thought about it yesterday for a while, and I just don't know how that even happened for so long, to be committed to something that you're just seeing negative results
Zero
on.
results.
Yeah, and they're getting worse it's like a stock market. It's like, hey, it keeps losing money. Let me put more money
Into
there.
it,
You know?
yeah.
Norm Macdonald told a joke the other day about a gambler.
You didn't tell it the other day, my friend.
Well, not the other day, but I saw it the other
The
day.
harm has since passed.
He said he said it was 2 gamblers and they were sitting at a bar having a drink, and he said the guy said, "How you doing on your betting?" And he said, "Oh, well, I'm 0 for 15 on college football this weekend." And he said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "I'm 0 for 10 on Major League Baseball. I'm 0 for 10 in the NBA. And I'm 0 for 6 on college basketball right now." And the gambler said, "Well, the NHL finals are on tonight, the hockey finals. Maybe you ought to try that." And the other one said, "I don't know anything about hockey." Obviously not anything else either. But I thought that's pretty good. That's one of us right there. So he said, "I don't know nothing about hockey."
Well, and the truth is, it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good. Drinking feels good.
But I mean, you're getting no results at all.
Zero.
You're losing everything in your life. And the insanity of it that we're like, "Oh, I'll just keep pouring into this well, and see what happens."
I seen a meme the other day on Instagram, and this guy asked these 2 ladies. He goes, "Are you ladies from England?" And one of them said Wales, and he said, "Are you Wales from England?"
Oh no.
You see that one?
Dumb ways to die right there, sir. Yeah, that was great.
That was hilarious. So that was a funny one, man.
If you guys, I may have mentioned it before, and I'm not gonna, we are not a glum lot, okay? Our recovery people. If you've never seen Norm's deal, his stand up on alcoholism, please go YouTube that and look it up. It's pretty good. I think y'all will get a kick out of it.
And if I had a couple minutes to spare on this podcast, I would play it. But unfortunately, it's a video.
Yeah, it is. It's on YouTube.
It's a video, and you'd have to see. It makes it so much more funnier when you see Norm. Before I forget, we are now able to be accessed on all major formats, right? We can iHeartRadio, Amazon Music under the podcast section, all the podcast areas. You can find us. We still are not on Wondery yet. They require verbal permission. So waiting on that to come back. And then of course she has our Grouch and Brainstorm YouTube credentials, which I have set to private until she has all the episodes on there. But once she has all the episodes, you'll also be able to access us from YouTube. So all major formats, everywhere you can think of to find our podcast. So basically now, just if somebody asks to say, hey, look up Grouch and Brainstorm on, whatever podcast network you use, or you can probably Google it at this point. I can imagine Google's going to find it for you.
Yeah.
But we have a lot. And we still, as far as I had called the guys or texted the guys earlier if they had listened to the last couple episodes to see if there were ads. And there's not going to be, not anytime soon. We still have a couple milestones we have to get before advertisers. But, and I'm going to just forewarn everyone, probably in the next 6 months, we will be having 4 ads per show, and that's to cover some of the capital that it costs to run this thing. Still trying to get it to be self-supporting.
Sure.
But this podcast is an example of commitment.
Absolutely.
Right? You start out with a goal. This is what I want to do. And then you have people like the Brad, I don't know his last name, but you have him putting stuff on Instagram about how much he likes this and how he always comments on the show. And people like, hey, somebody's listening. You know,
sure.
Somebody's hearing what they want to hear, and Judy has a whole show picked out for Jill. Like she has, she sent me a text the other day, and she wants to, because you're in the medical type field, right? Counseling type field. She wants to get some stats on some different things, like one example would be how many alcoholics come from divorced families, stuff like that. And that's one of those nature-nurture questions. That's one question, by the way. Has nothing to do with the rest of them. There's a whole lot of questions.
Yeah.
Statistics, stuff like that. So,
and on that thought too, I've always, and this is just one redneck, his opinion. Okay, y'all can tell by the tone of the sound of my voice, I'm not a doctor, nor do I even pretend to be one. But I've always been around recovery. There's always something traumatic with someone. They've always had something, and it may not have been something I look at as the most extreme thing in the world, or Mike might think, yeah, that's not that big a deal. But whatever it was to them, it could have been a divorce as a kid, or it could have been something that triggered that. And I rarely talk to anybody that just goes, oh no, I just got up and started smoking crack one day. Sound like a good idea. It's normally not that,
And now, then you're right.
And
it's
so
the escape,
Yeah, and that's always interested me. Just talking with people. I love when people come on and tell their stories, and I can hear them at the club or hear them out and about. And it's always something has kind of made that turn, and there was an option there to either figure it out in a healthy way, and I say we because I did the same thing, and we went down another path, and I don't know that it's always every time that like that, but I mean, man, I would say 9 out of 10 people I talk to that have any type of addiction or recovery, it's something trauma related that they consider trauma,
And yeah, and so we have a lot of people tell their stories, and I'm kind of like you, Matt. I like the personal stories.
I do too.
When I listen to us, I like listening to the banter and some of the funny stuff. But when we hear people telling their stories, usually something was wrong, and then someone introduced them to it,
Yeah.
And then they liked it.
Sure.
And then they started destroying their life.
Sure.
Like I just, and then I took over,
Yeah, yeah.
And so I liked the crack so much, that this is what I did. And then they just start saying all the bad stuff that happened, right? Or as a result of the drug. And luckily they get out of it, and sometimes there's a bit of recovery in the middle of it, and I'm not going to mention any names, but we just had another tragedy strike here in town, another member of our community we lost, so again, did that make me question when I heard the news? Did that make me question my commitment? You damn right it did. Again, for the 4th or 5th time this year.
Yeah.
So I heard Karen, when she was telling her story, she mentioned someone in her story that we've lost, and that she actually mentioned them in a sober, positive way. And then, alcoholism is cunning, baffling, and powerful.
Yes, it is.
And I believe that was written in that obituary that came out this week. Alcoholism is cunning, baffling, and powerful. Just when you think you beat it, it's going to beat you. And it comes back on us guys with a vengeance. Like there's no, for me, I hate to say that, but for me, if I went out today and drank the amount of alcohol I drank at my last outing, it would be fatal. It'd be fatal.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
It would kill me. And I hate to say it like this, but if I'm lucky, it will kill me. Because if I'm not, it's going to destroy every person that I come into contact with. And you try to convince somebody that nowadays, like whenever I'm talking to people at work, and they're just, I'd be like, well, if I was drinking, you know it,
Right.
Just believe me, you know it. Well, it couldn't have been that. No, it's worse than you can ever possibly imagine.
Well, they see you now and they're like, really?
Yeah, I park my car on the outside of the building nowadays.
I got sober and my fourth birthday, my mother came to the birthday thing at the club. She'd never been in an AA meeting. Yeah, never been in an AA meeting. She met a lot of you guys, talked to y'all after. She's been to a few things since then. She loves everybody and just loves it, okay? And when I call her, she asks me, how's Jill? How's this person? How's Ben, Chris, all these people? And she said, that's just the most beautiful thing ever. And I said, I'm not going to be the bearer of bad news. And I'm not a bad news guy. I like to keep it positive. But I said, the problem in there and the reason that we're all in there is I said, sometimes one of those people you go to a funeral for, just out of the blue. And I said, that's what starts making it tough when this is a person that you've gotten attached to or became close with. And I said, that's why we do all that shit, and go to all those meetings and do all those things with others, because it just does that. And that's what we're sitting up here doing a podcast for.
And we see people who lose their commitment as well.
Sure.
And man, life gets so good after it's almost an oxymoron, right? You go to AA so that life gets good, but life gets so good you stop going to AA, or you stop praying, or you stop talking to some other alcoholic, or you totally forget about the literature. Most importantly, you stop praying or stop working with someone.
Yeah.
Right? Because I still, to this day, like it whenever I have a sponsee call me and ask me a question. I still like that. And I'm sure mine would too if I ever called him and asked him a question. But, I'm not the kind of person who looks at the phone, sees their name, and goes, oh, God. I'm not like that, right? Mm-hmm. What I am like is, for some reason, every single time these guys call me is when I'm in the middle of something. Oh. Right? Like I'll be on a conference call, or I'm always in the middle of something. I think the last one that called me, I was at a lawyer's office in downtown Dallas doing a deposition for, something for work, right? Something. So I'm sitting here, and I want to answer the phone, but I can't. But, I still think that shows me their commitment. And it's like all that time we spent in them rooms working,
Sure.
Some of them, man, I'm talking 60, 80 plus hours, 1 hour at a time. I usually only work with my guys 1 hour at a time, unless we're on a fifth step. It's going to be about an hour pop, because I don't want them to lose their attention, and I want them to be able to commit to an hour. And we can spend an hour reading out of the book.
How long do you normally I don't know if I'm crossing the line asking this, is
No,
like
go ahead.
doing a fifth step, working with your guys. How long does that normally? And the reason I say that, mine was a day. Like I had to block a day off.
I tell them, meet me there at noon. I think every one I've ever done, I've said, meet me there at noon and plan on being there the rest of the day.
Okay.
You know, because I don't want them waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and all this anxiety that goes along with it. Just meet me there at noon, or we're going to go to the noon meeting, and when it ends at 1, we're going to go to that front room, cover your fifth step. And if it takes us till 7 o'clock at night, then that's just what it is.
We went on a fishing trip, and so once we got in the truck headed up to the lake, that we started it, and then as the day went on, but it was not just constant fifth step. We just fished and we talked.
Yeah.
And so it took a day basically. But yeah, I was just curious about that. I didn't know
And-
how
and
y'all ran into that.
I think the longest anyone's ever taken on me is about 4 hours.
Yeah, I mean, mine are typically 3 hours, but I tell them to set aside the rest of the day because I want them to go do, 6 and 7.
Yeah, and to Jill's point too, if you do it right and straight out of the big book, you're actually supposed to immediately go from 3 to 4, right? And then when you do 5, you're supposed to immediately go do 6 and 7. I mean, it gives you instructions. Take the book home.
Absolutely.
Or actually, it says take it down from your shelf, but you're supposed to already have it in your hand. So I had to put mine up on a shelf and then take it back down. I did because I wanted to do it exactly by the book.
Wow.
Yeah. Does it say dust it off? Maybe not. But maybe I had to dust mine off anyway.
Dust it off.
But it said, take this book down from the shelf and then go to page, whatever it is, 59 or whatever. Don't quote me on that. And go back through the first 5 proposals. And, if you left anything out and all that. Like, I went all through that. Yep.
And talking about commitment with recovery, I was on a deal yesterday working. I was sitting in the cab of a tractor all day. I popped my headphones in. I was going to listen to music. I did for a little while, and I thought, I want to listen to something recovery-wise. And I listened to Larry and Judy's episode again.
Yeah.
And I just sat there and listened to it all day yesterday until it was done. And, I enjoyed sitting there listening to it. And a lot of times when we're in here, we don't get to hear everything in the heat of the moment. And it was funny. I listened to it, and this morning we were headed to football, and I talked to Judy on Instagram a little bit, and we talked about her and I and Lacey and Larry going to eat one evening, getting together and going to eat. And I said, Lacey said, hey, they hit me up on Instagram, and I'm friends with them. I said, yeah, they're great. And I said, have you heard Larry? Because I just heard it the day before. So I turned the first 5 minutes on where he talked about going to
Six Flags.
Six Flags.
Yeah.
And I look over, Lacey's eyes were this big, and she goes, are you kidding me? And I was like, no. And she's like, leave that on. Like never even knew it was on there, And I'm like, man, there's some great stories on here that are just,
Man, that I'm one afternoon I jump on the motorcycle and I didn't realize how hot it was outside. I put on my full face helmet, right? And I'm going to drive across Dallas. And my son lives all the way across Dallas into the north part of Fort Worth. So we both in Fort Worth, but he's on the north side. So I'm driving to his house and I hit traffic, and I stop. I come to a complete stop. I'm on a motorcycle. It's 110 degrees outside. You got the heat of the engine, the heat of the concrete, the heat of the other stores, and a full face helmet on. And I pulled the front of my helmet up so I could, get a little fresh air. And I look over to the side, and there's that Comfort Inn right beside Six Flags. And the first thing I thought about was Larry. First thing I thought about was him and his story about,
I just, I mean, you guys that come on here and y'all don't realize, talking about commitment and helping us and helping other people that are able to listen to that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I flipped in there and I was like, I hadn't heard that one in a minute. So ran it through, man, enjoyed it. And, love Larry and Judy to death.
I think people are going to enjoy Karen's story as well.
Absolutely.
I do. I thoroughly enjoyed Karen's story.
She's a pistol.
And I was editing, I wasn't even listening to it for the content. I was actually listening to it for the editing purposes. So I want to see where our episode rankings are, see if anything's changed. Oh man, it goes all the way down. So the last episode we have 42. We have 42 listenings. Vulnerability has 52. So let's go up and we'll do the top few, which is the first meeting, getting that sponsor, Life After Getting into AA. So actually, episode 4 is the third. Going to Any Length to Get It. Then Dickie's Story. 125 people have listened to Dickie's Story. Spirituality is the next one, and then Jill, and then Phil, and then LaDon. Phil has now.
Phil is a
Phil
daggum
has
legend.
actually moved up to the top 10 episodes.
I need to call him. Joe and Bobby, my sponsor, called me the other day to rub in that they were fishing while I was working, and they were bragging and kind of just basically telling me, putting me in my place, which is good. And yeah, we were talking about Phil, and I think he's doing good down there. He moved and relocated, but he was the first guy ever, and I'll say this again. We talk about one of those principles is courage. Phil, in his own way, with all the laptops and all the stuff, he didn't know what Mike and I were doing to him that day. And we were like, can we just record you? And he did it, man. Like, he did it. And he, in typical Phil fashion, just.
And for those who don't know, we are in a full-fledged studio with studio mics and studio recording and professional arms and all the wires going everywhere and headphones. It was me, Matt,
and a
an iPad. We had an iPad. I recorded them on a 13-inch
at the club
iPad.
in a big room.
And somebody walked in the middle of it. Yeah. So that
and Phil was asking, what am I speaking to? You're like, just talk, Phil. He can hear you.
Luckily, he has one of those voices.
Oh, yeah. He's great.
And he is one of the original guys who, it was easy for me to commit because when he would speak, I didn't know anything about anything, and he kind of made it more. He made it less AA and more. Instead of talking about step 6, which I didn't have a clue what that meant, he would talk about real life scenarios. And hey, I went to the doctor's office yesterday and I popped off at the nurse. I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to go back and make amends, or I did go, stuff like that. And that's, it was easy to commit when you have people like that who are committed to helping you in your recovery. So, what you got on your mind, Jill?
About commitment?
About anything. Nap time?
Yeah. It's getting close to nap time.
Jill has a commitment to nap time.
Actually, it's gotten, I haven't been napping as much as I normally do, but, as far as commitment goes, I mean, there's, one thing I know for a fact is I'm committed to sobriety. And, I think I didn't fight like I knew I had to be sober, but how I went about it. Because, like I said, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do AA, and I still thought I knew something. And, there's been different levels of commitment, but I still have always had the commitment of, like, I have to stay sober. I'm committed to my job. And the reason being is because, like, I was never committed to my job.
Yeah.
And it's important that I do a good job. I show up and I work hard. And it's the same way with my sobriety.
Yeah. Sure. And in both, you get paid.
Sure.
There's dividends in both.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sobriety has a really high yield.
Yeah.
For the input.
No, I mean, like, I'm sober. I get to go to work. I mean, I was just so sick all the time, and I just I lacked commitment. And you have to be committed to see results in your life. You just do, no matter what it is. And if it's sports, if it's your education, if your sobriety, like, you have to put work into it. And I just was someone that never could complete anything or stay on task. And I think I just bebop through life, like, never committing to anything and never completing anything. And I never had goals. And so I just felt like I just spun out neutral for 20 something years. Yeah. And so it's important that, I have these goals and I stay committed to them, and I do what I need to do because my life depends on it. And it's nice because I get to see results now, and it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing to me.
Yeah, definitely.
So I feel like I found my purpose.
Yeah.
My special purpose.
Oh, the jerk. I have a special purpose too. Y'all remember that?
Do you ever think, though, like I do, you look back and like I was doing some stuff yesterday that was really cool. And I look back and go, I couldn't picture doing this, 7 years ago, doing any of the stuff I'm doing right now. I would not be doing 7. Like you could have told me, hey, you're going to do this, this, and this. I'd be like, you've lost your mind. Mm-hmm. And now it's just a normal, I'm like, man, how good is things to, and it's so weird. I used to be so, even though I couldn't accomplish anything or finish anything or commit to anything, but I had in my mind where I'm supposed to be doing this over here and I should be doing this right here. And all that is setting yourself up for failure, you know, but now I just don't really look too far ahead on things, and then things just appear and I go, oh, okay. And I go with it. You know?
There's no like should have done it or I could have or would have. It's just like I do it.
Yeah. And it's the funniest thing. Like I've learned with the higher power deal, I can see where God's doing something a lot of times because it comes out of the blue. It's not something that I would necessarily want to do, but after I'm around, I'm like, that's a good thing. Like it just comes at me different these days, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I know you two guys are definitely committed to doing this so we can reach as many people as possible. So that's a pretty cool deal too.
Absolutely.
But we are about out of time. And I think Matt's kids are about to destroy the entire downstairs of this home.
it's either them or Cal and Chris. I'm not sure.
Man, I hope it's not Cal and Chris and they got Ben in a headlock.
Yeah, well,
So
could be.
we got to go down there and make sure that all the baby oil's still in the container. But thank you both for your commitment to the show, and thanks everyone who commits to listening to it. And so, anyway, we have been at Rule 62. I'm going to start that over.
Commit to it. Come on.
We have been at Rule 62 Studios in Bossier City, Louisiana, and we've been the Grouch and the Brainstorm.